It's Valentine's Day this month, and we are talking about marriage and love and how we communicate to our grands and teach them about the reality versus the fairy tale. So today that is our topic, teaching grands love in fairy tales versus reality. Now, I want you to, as we talk, think about two images, get two images in your mind, two ways of thinking about marriage. The fairy tale is a snapshot. That's the rom-com, boy meets girl, falls in love, and they live happily ever after. That's a snapshot of a love experience. The reality is more like a long-term mini-series where there are episodes and there are conflicts and life changes and how do we deal with them. That's where we get a lifelong story. Well, reality is most definitely that. If we could break our lives into episodes, we'd see various times, various changes, and how do we communicate to our grands that you may have the very fairy tale falling in love experience, but you also need to understand the reality of what marriage represents and how you build a successful marriage over time. Because the honeymoon gets over, life sets in, and we have to deal with a variety of problems that arise, and we have to learn how to do it with our spouse. So we want to talk truthfully with our grands. We do want to tell them it's okay to wish for the fairy tale romance. I think dreaming is something that we've kind of taken too much away from. If you don't have hopes and dreams, what do you have to strive toward and achieve? I'll just leave you with that thought for a few minutes. And I think marriage and a long-term relationship is something we can strive for and hope for and build. But let's think about the things that happen in marriage that cause stresses. Children, okay, we have children and it's really wonderful. We're excited, especially when that first pregnancy hits and we're anticipating and can't wait to hold that baby. And then the baby keeps us up all night for months on end and we're tired and grumpy and we start getting grumpy with our spouse. And how do we deal with that? Talk to your grandkids about these experiences. Be honest, but also tell them the rewards that you've experienced after a long life, okay? Those children turn into your friends and become the parents of your grandchildren. Grandkids love to hear stories about their parents and have a real interesting take on considering their parents as babies and children themselves. That can be a really fun conversation. So talk with them about that. Talk with them about real life issues like money, making decisions. How do we save? How do we spend? What is it worth spending our money on? What should we not spend our money on? Have those conversations with your grands and tell them how it relates to marriage. Do you and your spouse talk about money? Do you talk about it in front of children or grandchildren? And then how do you talk about it with them? What about conflict resolution? We'll touch on that topic in another video too. But it's something that it's okay to share with our grands, that it's not abnormal to have conflict in relationships. The big trick and the key is how do you deal with it and how do you overcome it and move forward. You don't break a marriage over a simple conflict. And then what about illness, disability, and death? Certainly as our grands grow and we're getting older, they begin to see in us those experiences. They may see us ill. They may visit us in hospitals. And they have concerns. They really do experience some of those fears, but they don't have the maturity to understand how to deal with it and then how it is reflected in a marriage relationship. What do you do if your spouse is ill? How does that affect the family? How do we talk about it as a family? So a part of teaching our grands about the fairy tale romance versus the reality of long-term romance is really teaching life skills. In the process, as we're living out our lives in front of our grands, we need to teach them the life skills, help their parents teach them the life skills that it takes to overcome all of those reality checks that we all experience. We will have money problems. We will have relationship problems. We will face illness, possibly disability, and ultimately death. How do we deal with them? And how do we teach our grands so that they can look forward to building their own marriage relationship? Go out there and be grand, friends.